And we are back with another live BPTV episode from the Bold Penguin Lounge in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada at InsurTech Connect 2021. I'm Amber Willett, Director of Marketing at Bold Penguin, and we have a fabulous conversation ahead of you, so hold tight for another live BPTV episode straight from ITC. Today, we have a very special guest. We are here with Nick Lamparelli, Chief Innovation Officer at Rethought Insurance and fellow insurance nerd. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you for having me. Awesome that all of us insurance nerds have a venue where we can all nerd out together.
Turns out there's a lot of us.
Thousands.
Yes. Yes, it's been a fabulous turnout so far this year at ITC. The lounge is hopping, so it is a big event. Excited to be with everyone in person again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's jump right in. We're jumping into Hot Topics, where we discuss an industry trend and get your take. Hot topic today is the hard market, specifically the strain it's put on underwriting and distribution. So how have you seen this already delicate balance of a relationship impacted by the hard market, and how can both sides of the coin work together better?
Yeah, so the hard market is a byproduct of it's an insurance cycle, right? And so a lot of it is legacy oriented on a very old way of doing business, which is we release a product, we wait for claims to occur. The claims are more than we think or thought they were going to be when we first released the product, and we decide we're going to start pulling this back. And so I think there's a paradigm shift occurring. I think we're seeing it first in auto, but I think it's going to start translating into other lines where there's going to be more of a predictive element of trying to anticipate what the losses are going to be, which should shortchange the cycles that occur. I think the cycles are always going to be dramatic. They're always going to put pressure on relationships within the ecosystem, because you essentially have someone that's saying, I can't do business with you, or if you're going to do business with me, you're going to have to pay more. And that kind of ripples through the entire ecosystem. So I think that the benefit of having InsurTech here is that you can almost see the tea leaves around technology that's going to potentially solve that particular problem.
So can we prevent the next hard market by being proactive and leveraging technology?
That's the $1 million question, or $1 billion, maybe even $1 trillion question. I mean, it's possible, right? In a world where we have both actuarial models and predictive models, we should be able to shortchange some of them. Could there be a giant natural catastrophe that occurs that is like outside of the scope of what technology can provide? That will have an impact. There could be government actions, there could be economic recessions or wars, where those things are likely always to happen. So there will always be hard and soft markets, just like in any other price-sensitive arena. Prices go up, prices go down. But I think that given where the history of cycles, insurance cycles have come from, I think we can shortchange some of those. So maybe not as volatile, maybe a little smoother.
Smooth it out a little bit. Makes sense. All right, let's move on to industry chatter, and we have a deep one today. Okay. We went all the way to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk and Reduction in Paper. This was authored by Dale Sand, so no lightweight questions today for Nick Lamparelli.
I'll put my academic hat on. Okay, this will be a test.
All right, so we're diving in. All right, so the quote is, small businesses have been largely forgotten when it comes to preparation for response to or recovery from disasters. There are resilience improvement initiatives for major cities and multinational companies. However, small businesses are left behind even though they are the major source of employment of new jobs created and often serve as critical supply links both to the community as well as other companies. Your reaction?
I would agree with that sentiment, that I think resiliency is the key. My hope is that in the next 10 years, insurance begins to transition from just a transactional product of risk transfer to, I've heard, insurance as a service, risk management as a service, like somehow combined, insurance combined with preventative or maintenance items, so that insurance is like the last resort in case something breaks down, but let's prevent it from breaking down. Let's prevent the water from getting in. Let's prevent the wind from tearing the roof off of the property. So it's critical for us as an industry to begin to transition and think of ourselves more as organizations that encourage and incentivize resiliency versus something bad happens to you, we make you whole. I think there's something unsatisfying about just making you whole when we could have helped you prevent it. Let's do that extra work.
Who's best set up to take the lead on that? Do you think it's distribution or carriers, insurtechs?
I think insurtechs, I mean, look at this. Insurtechs have completely changed the landscape, the conversation. They're getting the other players in the insurance ecosystem to take notes as to what's going on. So I think it'll be all of the above. I know that's like a non-controversial answer, right? So I think it'll be all of the above. But I think tech and technology will have critical influence, the ability to persuade, to get the industry to move more rapidly. And let's face it, I think we're going to need a lot of technology to educate, communicate this information, but also to build up the data.
Pushing us all to do better and be more innovative, so definitely a positive influence.
Absolutely.
Love it. All right, and we'll close it out with questions from the crowd, or resource questions from our BPTV audience for our guest. So today's question for Nick is, you've said that there's no such thing as bad risks, only bad prices. But what about when a risk is higher than the regulators will let you price for? If you have a fireworks manufacturer in the middle of a hot wildfire zone, there's no way you'll ever charge enough to make that risk work. So, sassy question to close it out. What's your response?
That is a sassy question. I don't recommend that you have a fireworks factory in a wildfire zone. A company needs to quantify what the appropriate opportunity cost is to play in the game. So to me, that's an underlying philosophy for my underwriting, is to try to figure out what the appropriate rate is. But if the market isn't willing to bear that rate, you can't play the game. And so, yeah, I still believe that.
I agree with that. I think it's about approaching it from a yes mentality.
Yeah.
And yet you might eventually have to say no, but trying to figure out if there's a way to mitigate it. Is there a way to change the coverage or the price, or is there a way to adjust it so that it works for everyone?
Yeah. So I think a typical underwriter would look at this and say something like, well, even if there was the right rate, there's not enough of those. But I think that's a fundamental problem with how we think as an industry, but it's conferences like these that kind of change the conversation.
I just want to say that I think that certainly we still have some ways to go as an industry, but it is really heartening to see everyone showing up at events like this to try to discuss these problems, solve these problems, and bring everyone forward together.
Completely.
So,
yeah.
Love it. Well, on that note, fantastic time to be in insurance and to be at the conference. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Again, live from the Bull Penguin Lounge at InsurTech Connect 2021. This is interview number 3, so if you missed the first 2, make sure you check them out on Bull Penguin's LinkedIn channel and keep following for more to come. Thanks so much for your time, Nick.
Always a pleasure.
Great chat.
Thanks.